Hi, this is Anita from Real Estate Crunch. Today we're going to continue talking about condemned properties, but we're going to also talk about why this is such a complex issue in the United States. One of the reasons why this is a complex issue is because the Fifth Amendment. Now, the Fifth Amendment you probably have heard about quite a bit. If somebody's in, if they're in legal trouble, they might say, I take the Fifth, I plead the Fifth. Because under the Fifth Amendment, it also states that a person does not need to incriminate themselves. But also the Fifth Amendment is another status which says that a person cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. In the Fifth Amendment gives several rights. Of course, the right to the jury trial, protection against double jeopardy, protection against self-incrimination, right to a fair trial, and protection against government taking property without compensation. So this refers to what is called the Takings Clause in the Fifth Amendment, which ensures that if the government needs to take private property for public use, it must provide just compensation to the property owner. The taking clause is central to the consideration of what's called eminent domain, which means or property condemnation, which basically balances the need between public use projects with individual property. Now you might say, well, how can the government take my property? And under what circumstances could they take my property? And this is what's really interesting about the eminent domain clause. The eminent domain is the power of the government to take private property for public use, provided that just compensation is given to the owner. Just compensation means that the owner receives a fair market price. The government could say, look, you have this property, we need to be able to build a railroad through there. That would be something that would be eminent domain. This would be for the use of society as a whole. That normally speaking, for eminent domain, the projects which can be used would be for like infrastructure projects, for roads, bridges, and highways, public buildings, schools, libraries, government offices, utilities, water, electricity, and sewage systems. So those are the main reasons why a government might say, look, we need your property. This road or this bridge or this highway is going to run right through here, and we need to take eminent domain of this property. We're going to give you a just compensation or a just price for it, but this is for the public good of society as a whole. In order for this to happen, there's, of course, some steps and things that must happen in the process. So, they can't just decide one day to take your property. There has to be things that happen in this process itself, which you, of course, as the owner, have the right to be involved with. One would be the planning and public use determination. This would mean that there would have to be identify the need for the public project that requires private land. And there would, of course, need to be some kind of planning commissions. The local authorities would look at this. Usually they'll hold hearings on this. You can go to those hearings. You can say, no, I don't agree. You can tell them all the reasons why you don't want this. But at the end of the day, you may not have much choice if they decide to take it for eminent domain. The government will offer to purchase the property from the owner at the fair market value. You can then refuse if you want to. They can also give, if they reject the offer, they can give a notice of condemnation, condemning the property, which indicates its intention to take the property. But the property owner still has rights here. They can do some legal proceedings, take it to court, where the government must prove the necessity and public use of the project, and then compensation could be determined. It is really, kind of a very complicated process. It's a, process that happens to many property owners around the United States for many, many different reasons. Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not fair, but you as a property owner still have a right to voice your opinion and to voice your concerns on this. Now, what should you do if suddenly your property, you've got a notice and you've been told, or you've talked to the planning commission and you've heard that, your area is going to be condemned, or there's going to be, a freeway built through it or something else like that. We highly recommend that you go and talk to an attorney, a real estate attorney. Not just any attorney, but find yourself a real estate attorney who understands eminent domain and understands the condemnation laws for your area. Because as we mentioned before, in real estate, it is very much laws of the counties, the states where you live. it can vary very much from district to district, county to county, and from state to state. So you really need to find yourself someone who is an expert in the area where your property is, who knows the laws and even knows some of the local officials and can help you get some of the information that you will need. That's the first thing that we recommend that you do, that you basically hire an attorney. You get to understand the entire process. You evaluate all your options. You begin to look and say, what are my options in this? What can I do in this? You find ways to try to protect your rights. You prepare for negotiations. You decide already what would the negotiations be, because when it comes down to the end of the day, if they decide it's eminent domain, if they decide this is for the good of the community, if there is a community project on this and they need your land for this, you may not have much choice. So you might have to look and prepare for negotiations. And you need to be able to find ways to navigate all the legal proceedings. We've written a blog post on this if you're interested to find out more, which is Understanding the Fifth Amendment, Eminent Domain, and Condemnation in the United States. So if you are interested in finding out more about this, we'd recommend that you go and you read our blog post on this to be able to find some more information. Thank you so much for listening and being part of our community. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate you joining with us here today. We hope you give us a thumbs up, you'll subscribe, that you enjoy the few minutes we spend each week to talk a bit about real estate.